I don't necessarily have as much control of the IT as I would like, but let's see. So the first thing to say is that as of the most recent release of MATLAB, in the so-called data feed toolbox, we have a connection between RavenPack Analytics and MATLAB. It covers historical data sets from RavenPack, intraday analysis, and also real-time. And I'm going to show a couple of very quick examples that indicate some of the how-to and some of what you can do with this. In passing, I will refer to some new and newish features in MATLAB that you may be aware of or not aware of. OK, so accessing data from MATLAB, from RavenPack, we might want to consider as part of our research environment, how do earnings announcements impact prices? We might want to consider how layoffs might, news about layoffs might have been received historically, causing stock prices to move. And how can sentiment in news be incorporated into a trading strategy? I'm going to look at bullet 1 and 2 here in particular. Okay, but these are some of the demos that we've been building and developing, etc. So what we're going to do is we are going to import some Twitter news analytics and sentiment data during the earnings period, around about July the 28th. And we're going to use MATLAB to perform some very quick analysis and visualization. There's going to be no grand concepts, no macro scopes, no super alpha. It's just going to be quick, simple, easy toy demo. OK, so is this playing? Yes, it is. So this is the first means of working with RavenPack. You'll see the MATLAB command window here. And we're showing RPLoader. So RPLoader is a function that essentially imports some of the stored data from the RavenPack archive. It allows us to query based on the parameters that RavenPack offers us. So in this case, date, the dates that we're looking at, the specific entity that we're concerned about. So in this case, Twitter Incorporated. And think about some of the other elements that we might want to consider as well, which we will come on to in a moment. So this is going to be using some clever RavenPack-specific methods to look behind some of our text searching facility, but it's implemented in this RPLoader function that will create this ESS data type here, this data class that we see in front of you. This is a table class. For those of you who've not used MATLAB in 2 or 3 years, this might look new to you. It kind of is like the R DataFrame. It manages data in terms of text, numerics. It's organized accordingly. So in this case, what we're able to do is bring in some of the data, the categoricals, the ordinals. We've got the stock type there, the Twitter. Here we're looking at the categories that RavenPack is providing us with. So if I look at 14, line 14 in particular, that's interesting to me because I'm interested in this line because it's going to help me think about how this might impact the Twitter price, the price target. In this case, it's showing me that there's going to be a little bit of a downgrade. OK? So the next bit is using the pre-generated factors that RavenPack have kindly given us as part of their offering. So in this case, they've given us the level of sentiment around this. It's mostly negative, 29. Now, this is the awkward bit in the presentation because when I'm doing this back at base, I have control over the video and I'm able to skip the next sort of 10, 15 seconds. I don't have control here. It's being controlled at the back. So it's going to look a little bit awkward while the video keeps going and then takes us to the next stage, which considers the importance of the announcement. So is this a new announcement or is it a repeat announcement and as such just repeating something that's been discussed before? So in this case, it's 100. It's important. We want to consider it as part of our strategy. So that's just a very simple example of how we can import some of the relevant data from RavenPack News Analytics into MATLAB. Now, what interesting stuff can we do with it? So hopefully the video will move on very shortly. Here we go. So the screen will expand. So this is where some of the interesting stuff happens, the prototyping, the visualization, the modeling. And again, nothing terribly amazing, just simple stuff. In the first instance, just do some simple pre-processing, some filtering, what time zone are we interested in, what filters do we want to apply, what stocks specifically are we interested in, how can we get just the data in that we're interested in that details the relevant news events and which meet our important criteria. So that's kind of where the querying is taking place. And now what we're going to do is visualize some of this stuff in action. So this is an animated plot. We're just showing the stock price at the moment. It looks a little bit unusual because we're focusing on overnight. We've got a weekend here, and so on. Now, the next step is superimposing some of the RavenPack analytics relating to the Twitter stock on top of it. So we're going to merge the market data element with the sentiment data into a single plot that's going to help us chart and then ultimately determine hopefully a useful-ish model. So we'll run the next bit of code. Here we have the same plot again. But now what we've got is we have the news announcements superimposed on top of the time series. The screen isn't showing it, but the weekends and the are grayed out here. So there's a little bit of a resolution issue with the projector, but hopefully we see enough of the detail. Green blobs mean positive, and obviously, if the bigger the green, the more positive it is. The red blobs basically mean negative. The earnings announcement is coming at the end of the day on July the 28th, which I think is a Monday. Am I right? So what we're able to do here is do some hand-eye analysis, all right? As we lead up to the earnings announcement, there's a little bit of positivity. At the point of the actual announcement, it's good. It's showing increased profits, green. That means, we can use this this potentially suggests very rapidly, quickly, that the stock price may move positively. But we have the call with the analysts, okay? And the analysts, the call here is talking about some softness in the marketplace. So we have more red. And, the classification that's coming through is relating to the downgrade. So this is our model here. It's an exponential moving average. It's looking at the last 5 indicators that have come in from RavenPack, and it actually maps pretty well to the changes in the price. So positive before the announcement, positive at the announcement, but then afterwards we can see that the moving average is moving in the other direction. So we can use this potentially to inform some of our strategies that we might want to apply. Right, so this is probably a very fairly simple illustrative example. It's just showing off some of the plotting capabilities and some of the ways by which we can merge the data that RavenPack is providing with some traditional market data that we might be picking up elsewhere. In this case, we're just using the historical archive, okay, through this RPLoader function. What happens if we want to move to real-time and intraday? Well, this is where we'll move to some of these other functions that we have, funnily enough, called real-time and time series, which focuses on the specific streams. So, just very, very quickly to finish off, the next video I've got is a lot shorter. Firstly, some housekeeping to set up the real-time connection. we set up the API through the MATLAB path by installing the relevant jar file, established a connection to RavenPack. I've obfuscated our login credentials here. If any of you are Wrexham fans, there are some very famous Wrexham footballers from the late 70s here to obfuscate. And then we will actually look at some of the data. The two key functions are the real time. So this is building up the connection. And in this case, we might want to call an example listener that's basically listening for something to happen that might trigger a strategy. So next demo, this is only a few seconds. So here it is. We've just built the connection up. We now have a live connection with the RavenPack Live indicators. We can see some of the selected criteria beginning to come through. So here we go, Twitter, TD, Woodside, etc. We're not picking up all the categories yet, but we can see them beginning to populate. So here we go, we have a live connection, and if one of these is interesting, it might stimulate us to do something, to make a trade, etc. So just finally, to wrap up, some of the functions that are available to integrate with RavenPack. Let's go back. RPLoader, time series, can get us some intraday data, a small selection of. Then for intraday analysis, time series, real time to do the connection into the real-time feed. On the way, you perhaps didn't necessarily see this, but there's some new features, newish features in MATLAB, looking at the table class, the date-time class, some of the new MATLAB execution engine that's come out that's making it a lot faster, and much more around big data, a new graphics environment. We might talk about the big data stuff in the panel section later. So that's all in passing. And with that, I'm done, and hopefully I've not lost us too much time. Thank you.
So just by a quick show of hands, how many of you actually use MATLAB today? OK, great. So a good number of you. So I have a quick question for you, Steve. If I'm a MATLAB user, how do I get access to this adapter?
Give us a call. We can set you up with a temporary license of the data feed toolbox. You need to be on the latest version of MATLAB to do that. And if you don't have the latest version, we can make it available to you. We're always happy to come down as far as we can and talk, show these examples and other ones that we've got as well, if you're interested in more. So, or give me your card at the end of the day, and we'll set you up with an evaluation license.
Excellent, great. Any more questions? Any questions for Steve?